The fourth LLR unit has been introduced, which also marks another SR unit that got an ultimate form. Feraquea, otherwise known as Gazesuccubus, has been greatly upgraded to be a huge threat. And I'm sure you PvP people know exactly what I'm talking about. So to those who aren't familiar with her, let me go ahead and show you guys why that is, and I'll even show you guys how to build her. So we got her talent here. Her damage is increased. If she already took action, she can act again after any ally fights while having class advantage for 1 turn. After taking action, she can swap 2 units class types for 3 turns that cannot be dispelled and has a 2-turn cooldown. The class type change is considered to be a buff, and its duration is reduced by 1 turn when taking damage. So as we can expect, this class change mechanic, I'm almost certain that she was the first to introduce this, which I'm so very glad that this is still a thing for her. I've always liked the idea since it was such a unique thing. So you can imagine like swapping a boss class type so that your main damage dealer can deal way bigger damage. And maybe if you have like a demon ally fighting many holy units, well, you can simply just change their class type and therefore won't have to deal with that sort of trouble. You're always going to be dancing around this no matter what, especially when it comes to reviving and displacement, ignoring guard and revive disable, being able to switch class type to her own, and then different skill types depending on the class type you are. If you want to see exactly what this means, then I'll be showing this off in the showcase section if you're really curious about all of that. For her best classes, the demon has way better stats and way better bond effect. And when it comes to an assassin, I would say her bond is way weaker, but you do get like 2% more crit chance. So I would highly really recommend demon. Now being demon is really problematic, but it's really possible for her since she's always going to be flipping around class types. So she's one of the few that's an exception to this. Now with the Master Stones, for the armor and headwear, you can do HP attack and defense. However, for the headwear, you can do magic defense instead if you really want to balance both of those things. And then with the last ones, weapon accessory, HP attack and skill. Then with the Arena Stones, I highly recommend an offensive set. Her best soldiers does include the Poison Bat Mage here. It's going to be her best magic dealing soldier, does really good damage, applies a debuff, and if it's an SP, you get heal reversal as well. If you don't have them upgraded, then you can use sorceress instead. Now if you're going to be fighting in maps where there's water, Leviathan, only SP Leviathan is going to be your best choice. Really good for damage. Otherwise you can use Glacial Elemental. You have the Wild Expedition here. It's her only archer soldier to deal against flyers. You do have to be on certain terrains, which is grass and water, for their bonus effects. Now in the future, we will be getting SP Faceless here. They're going to be one of her best physical damage dealing soldiers since they do get a highly boosted crit chance and damage. When it comes to the weapons here, for damage, you really want the Crystal Stinger. Tons of crit and defense ignore if her skill is higher than the enemy. Next best choice would be Silver Swift Blades for crits, or use Star Strong Impaler to reduce defense. Those are going to be the best options, but if you don't have any of them, then I would use the Hydra Bow to reduce enemies' damage capability. If you still don't have that one, then just use any of the other attack boost weapons until you get the recommended ones that I have listed here. But let's say that you don't want to use any of them, then you can use Lurker Bow for the extended range. If you care about going for AoE, then you can use Deck Gunners. If you have this one, then that does mean that you have another option when it comes with the enchants. The only right choice for the armor here is the Last Rites. I use damage rest if at full HP. Alternative options can lead to Azure Legend or Tenyos, but you can also use Demon Lizard Skin. Maybe New Reaper's Close too, which mainly increases your chance of surviving a single target hit. Otherwise, I would use something else that offers something like 10% HP. For the helmet here, there's a lot of options that you can go for. If you care about damage, then the Night Owl is going to be the best one. More skill damage and AoE when away from the enemies. Star Crown needs a healer for damage buffs, then Call of Eternity, which you need to take damage for the extra damage. If you don't have any spare like I do, then you can use support types including Tenuos for the random buffs, earmuffs for damage res. There's also electric headwear, which is immunity to displacements, which I'm honestly not sure if it's still good right now. If not, then it is quite niche then. If you don't like that one, then you can use King's Crown to offer damage. Another really good one is Demon Hat for silence immunity in AoE damage res. For survivability, Glory is going to be nice, seeing as she can mix her class types. She'll get away with that healing. Flower for healing if below half HP, then either Snow Beanie for the defense or Dark Crown for the magic defense and HP. With the accessory, I highly recommend using the Bloodthirsty Nail. Guaranteed to be immune to silence all the time, so that way she can end up using her talent. Next good one is Edge of Memories for a skill cooldown for single target skills. If not for either of those, then I would use either Judge, Slayers, or Prisoners for kill power, which is especially good due to her class change type, which means more damage against whatever certain class type that you choose. As for enchants, either Breeze or Full Moon. But if you are running the Prismatic Destroyer, then Magic is an option for you. The substats that you want on your enchant will be HP and attack. For your accessory, if you do get attack and crit, then that's perfectly fine. Same can be said for weapon if you just have a buttload of attack. Just as long as you have HP on your armor and helmet, then it's fine. However, if that's still not good enough for you, then I would recommend having HP on the weapon as well. And then with the accessory, if you just have attack and crit, then that's still perfectly fine. Alright, so there's no walkthrough of the awakening stages, but due to how Pharah works anyways, I'm sure you can get through it just fine, hopefully. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right onto her showcase. So when using LLR Feraquea, she's going to be a physical DPS who is going to switch things up on the battlefield due to her class change mechanic. She's in control how the battle will play out. Looking at her talent, she can act again if an ally fights while having class advantage, which should be no problem for her. Her class change swaps the first selected target with the second one. You always want to set this up in accordance to another character to get that act again rolling. It lasts for a good while, but I would still choose your time wisely when doing so, since this effect will decrease for both the enemy and an ally. However, it should be noted that it doesn't work on a lot of bosses for PvE, so sadly, the mechanic cannot be abused over there. When taking a look at her skills, her 1C lets her revive when she dies without taking super effective damage. As long as the enemy she's taking damage from doesn't have class advantage, then she is good, which also has a 5-turn cooldown. You can use the skill to buff her attack, and if she uses the skill on an ally with the same class type, then they swap places. Being able to reposition are always a good thing, whether it's to get closer to the enemies or simply retreat. However, if the unit isn't in the same class type, then she will be able to teleport near them, which is quite crazy, so she can still do whatever you got going for her. However, if you use it on herself, then she just stays in place, then gets to move again. And if you have something like Breeze afterwards, it does carry over, so her reach will be expanded. On top of being able to act again if an ally helps her, or any units, even better. She has perhaps one of the craziest skills that I've seen, her AoE which has no range limit. It's also very annoying as well. The passive makes it so that the unit can lose control if they are in the same class type in PvP. However, this can hit for a decent amount. This is one of the reasons that makes her such a huge threat in PvP. She's able to swap out classes quite often, and seeing that she can already basically control what happens, it's going to be hard to avoid such a thing. There's just like no escaping from her, from anything that she does. So I recommend you do take cautious and micromanage how you move. You'll be screwed if you don't. The lose control effect can be removed if an ally ends their turn nearby. Unfortunately, it cannot be dispelled. It is a straight line skill, so thankfully with that, but if you are able to hit multiple enemies with it, then it makes the probability of another ally who can help her act again just increase even further. Now here comes her most interesting skill, her 2C skill, which changes based on whatever class type that she is. As a demon and mage, you have a skill called Abyss, It has a 50% boosted crit chance that's a self-range AoE that reaches 3 blocks and applies 2 debuffs, which is super effective against the same class type. As an assassin archer, you get an insane skill here to ignore guard with boosted crit chance, having +2 more range on the defensive terrain and then able to move back. So starting off as an assassin is really not a bad choice just for this reason. However, you will lose a bit of control to trade off for more offensive power. Her demon class really does the opposite, so it's more of a do whatever gameplay that you prefer. Plus, if you do have the Lurker's Bow, then that's 5 range in total for her. And if you do have the bell accessory, it gives her a lot of offensive power, and if there's no enemies nearby whenever she is attacking, then she can move safely. So it's really a nice tech option if that's what you're looking for. As an infantry and lancer class, you get a single target skill which does have the same logo as frontal assault, but it adds something different. You'll have no melee penalty, dispel 3 buffs, and applies passive disable before battle. Wholly aquatic, interesting enough, she does get a heal skill, heals a ton, dispels 2 debuffs, and applies damage increase, which is honestly really surprising because I was honestly expecting a attack skill. But it's totally not bad, it's pretty decent. It's just a simple skill. Unfortunately, it does have a 3-turn cooldown, so it's really not sustainable. By being either flyer or cavalry, you get an upgraded version of sprint. Difference here is that it does have a passive where she can move a lot better, and it can apply 2 mobility buffs instead of 1 mobility. So simply, it's a great way to get your team going, and you can do something sneaky by initially having this, then when it's time to engage, move her forward, then switch her class type to something like an assassin archer to be able to ignore guard and just have a ton of range. And finally, the unique class types like dragon. You get an insanely powerful skill that deals more damage to any other classes, heals some HP after battle, then it resets talent cooldown. It's quite a rare one to come across unless you're constantly using her in boss fights, or maybe if you use a solo a lot, so that you can get a reset with her, just so that way you're not dealing with one less skill that could be useful. So with that laundry list out, we can finally take a look at her 3C. It ignores guard and has a team-wide command effect that deals more damage while having an advantage. Before battle, it changes 3 enemies' buff into a powerful debuff, and disables revive if she has the class advantage only in PvP. Not as cool as her 2C, but strong usage of course in PvP, since basically everyone has a revive, especially since it ignores guard, so not everyone is going to be safe even while having a tank. So skills like these where they ignore guard feels like an insurance at times, just because they're always just like the MVP of things. Because there is no way that you're going to be able to tank bust Vargas easily enough compared to someone like Landius. All in all, LLR Feraquea is a great DPS, pretty much a debuffer too, who technically doesn't dance around actually applying debuffs, but more of dealing super effective damage for herself and her entire party. And it's actually really interesting, like you would think like for how long Langrisser has been around, you would think that some of the mechanic would get stale and they would like run out of ideas, but nah, they just keep on innovating and it's really exciting to see. She can work alongside with just about anyone, especially if they can deal super effective damage. And that's what you really want to aim for. That's how you're gonna get the most out of her. As a DPS herself, she can perform really well, but depending on what's happening, she'll usually be the one to take action first to set her allies up, or later on in order to screw up the opponent's advantage state. That really shines in PvP or just when dealing with multiple enemies. Unfortunately, she's not going to be too amazing in the harder content since she won't be able to swap out the boss's class type, so the extra damage will not take effect. It's a shame too, cause that would have made her usability skyrocket, just for damage alone. And that's not to say that you can't use her since she does attack pretty often and will still be able to hit hard. So she can hit harder than some and deal with multiple enemies too. As for how teams will look like, nowadays it's really made easy with just cause we have a ton of characters right now. A lot of them can universally work together even off faction, but that's not to say that you won't ever do that. Normally you would have like one tank. If they have a faction buff, even better. A supporter like Thxs for the buffs and healing. Someone who can apply debuffs, like herself, or apply buffs. And then someone who just really wants to focus on damage that can work alongside Fera in order to keep her active. In PvP, since the Attigan works better here, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Since Holy still reigns supreme, you're going to be working off a ton of synergy with them. So Fera would really like to be Demon in that environment, and that's how you'll see a lot of magic with her happen. In general, it's simply hard to avoid, so her Attigan is going to happen regardless whether you like it or not. So yeah, with her on the field, she has a lot of control on the game, and that's what makes her really volatile. But let's say that you have her as an assassin, right? You are trading off a little less control for some insane offensive power. It's like I said earlier, you're not really going to be using her AoE, but rather her other skill for the insane reach. So having the Lurker's Bow and having the Bell accessory will still make her an immense threat. So the TLDR of things, in PvP, she sets the pace of the game, while in PvE, it is very minimal, but great at being a DPS to either kill things or just do a ton of damage. Alright, so hopefully all that yapping filled you in with enough knowledge just about what LLR Fera is. She's a great character to pull for if you plan on getting her. If you don't really PvP, then you're not missing out on a lot, except for maybe high scores in Ancient Beckoning if you really care about that. In PvP, she has a high roll that puts her very high on a tier list, and people do ban her very early on, so she is very worth the trouble for that environment, as she just does so much in battle that's just very pressuring to deal with. So if you enjoyed what you saw here and want to see more, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment down below if this has helped you out or if you want to add something that I may have missed. I am still trying to get used to things here, so I may get some things wrong or miss something that was very obvious, but I did try my best to do a ton of research for this, so hopefully I got everything just right. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your guys' day, and so yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.